Welcome to Extension Connection on Super Talk 1270. Thoughtful information and discussion with experts from both Burleigh and Morton County Extension Service offices. Extension Connection provides advice on family nutrition, issues in agriculture, lawn and garden, community leadership, flood recovery, homeowner concerns, and so much more. Live from the Super Talk 1270 News Studio, this is Extension Connection.
Welcome to the Extension Connection. We have the Morton County staff with us today, and we are taping on Tuesday. This is Wednesday, November 5th, and so we will not be taking any online calls, just to let you know that. But if you have any questions about what we talk about, please feel free to call our office at 667-3340 for any other further information. Today I have with me Carla Mickle, 4-H Youth Agent, and Ashley Stegman, Extension Agent in Training for Morton County. And Carla, do you want to just briefly talk about say what you're going to talk about today?
Yep. I have some information on a teen and adult 4-H volunteer project training coming up here very quickly. North Dakota ambassador selections, and then a recap of some judging results that were done here earlier this fall.
Okay. And how about you, Ashley?
I'll be talking about some beef tips going into winter and wrapping those trees for winter protection, and then a new publication that NDSU just put out this week.
Okay, and I'm going to just visit with you briefly. Today is the North Dakota Dairy Convention, and so I'm not going to talk a lot about the program, but if there's dairy producers out there that might be listening, you still have time to get there for the noon luncheon and also to hear the keynote address. And the keynote is North Dakota's Rich Dairy History, a look at where we have been. And Clarence Olson, who is the retired North Dakota State University Extension dairyman or dairy specialist, is going to be speaking after lunch today. And so please think about coming in to listen to Clarence talk. There, of course, is a trade show going on. And then at 3 o'clock, Brian Gould from the University of Wisconsin will be talking about the 2014 Farm Bill and the Dairy Milk Protection Program and where do you fit. And so Brian will be briefly discussing that at the end of the day for that program. And of course, there's a convention social before the awards banquet. Mark Dahl, New Salem, will be is president of the Milk Producers Association of North Dakota, and so he'll be presiding at the banquet. And Susan Hintz, North Dakota State Dairy Princess, will also be there. At the banquet, they will be giving away the Milky Way Award, the Merit Award from the Milk Producers Association of North Dakota Award, the Award of Dairy Excellence, and that is done by Doug Goring and Sean Quizzle from the North Dakota Department of Ag. And then the 2014 Dairy Princess Coronation will also be held, and then with closing remarks. And so please feel free to stop by the Mandan 7 Seas. That's where this event is going to be held. And you can catch part of the program anyway if you get there by noon for lunch, and then also for the noon speaker. Another thing that I'd like to remind you is that there's still time to register for the Beef Cattle Winter Management Workshop that is being held November 12th and 13th. And on the 13th, it's at 2 locations that are near us. In the morning from 10 to 3 at the Wing Theater. That event will be held in Wing. And then in that afternoon, starting at 3 o'clock Mountain Time, we'll be at the Grant County Fairgrounds in Carson. And that's at 3 o'clock Mountain Time. We would like registrations because there's a meal with each of the events so that we can just better plan for that. And a few of the things that we will be talking about at that event is building colostrum quality during winter feeding. And Dr. Jerry Stucca, NDSU Extension veterinarian and livestock stewardship specialist, will be talking about that. Mary Berg is going to talk about alternative winter feeding strategies. Shelter belts as living windbreaks. Craig Stange from the Natural Resources Conservation Service will be talking about that. Body conditioning score in the cow herd. I will be talking about that at the Carson location, and I believe Penny Nestor will be talking about that at the Wing location. Feeding for Energy will be addressed by Chanda Engel. Chanda is a research specialist at the Carrington Research Extension Center. Water Management, Carl Hoppy, longtime livestock systems specialist at Carrington, will be visiting with producers about that. Vaccine Handling and Storage, Lisa Peterson, Beef Quality Assurance Specialist. And Hay Bale Management, Farah Brummer. She's out of the Streeter Station. She will be talking about that. The registration for this meeting is $15 per person. If you wish to become BQA certified, you can also do that at this event, and that is $15 as well. And you get and recertification is you can get recertified or you can get certified. And so please think about attending this event. We'd like to know by November 10th whether you plan on attending or not, so we can plan for the evening meal, of course, in Carson, and the noon meal in Wing. Once again, the most local two locations are Wing at the Wing Theater from 10 to 3 p.m. on Thursday, November 13th. And then that afternoon, 3 o'clock Mountain Time at the Grant County Fairgrounds in Carson. So please feel free to try and get that done. And then I'd like to remind producers that if you're interested in, and I know bull buying season is probably just around the corner, even though you've probably, maybe some of you just taken the bulls out of the pasture and trying to get those calves sold. But the Dickinson Research Extension Center is holding a bull buying clinic on November 20th, which is that's 2 weeks from now. It's a Thursday. It starts at 10 a.m. and then we'll conclude at noon. Lunch will be provided. And so if you would be interested, you should RSVP by November 14th by calling Lee Tizer at the Dickinson Research Extension Center. And that phone number is 701-483-2348, extension 105. Or you can email Lee at lee.tizer@ndsu.edu, and Tizer is spelled T as in Tom, I, S as in Sam, O-R. And so if you're interested in that, and then the North Dakota BCIA meeting will be held in the afternoon after the bull buying workshop. And if you're interested in CHAPS and the Beef Cattle Improvement Association, that meeting will be held after this event. And so you're sure welcome to attend that as well. I just got yesterday or today the Farm and Ranch Guide, and there's an interesting article in there that was put in by Jerry Stucca about protecting your livestock from sweet clover disease. Some of the things that you can do to prevent the disease is planting sweet clover varieties with low coumarin content, curing and drying sweet clover carefully before baling, avoiding feeding sweet clover forages in late gestation, blending all predominantly sweet clover forages suspected of contamination with other forages, or feeding these forages for only a short time, such as 5 to 7 days, to avoid cumulative effects of the animal's clotting mechanism. And that's what sweet clover causes, and that's why you don't want to feed it prior to that close to calving, because it prevents the blood from clotting. And so late gestation is not a good time to be feeding sweet clover. And there was a lot of sweet clover out there this past summer, and so I can get into more detail after we come from the break, or if we have time. And so we're going to go for a break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. back to the Extension Connection. Like I said, we have the Morton County staff with you today, and we are taping, so we're not in studio. So if you'd like to call 667-3340 if you have any questions on what we've talked about, please feel free to do so. Carla, I'm going to kick it over to you, if that's okay,
Yep.
and you can talk about some of the upcoming 4-H things that are coming up.
Sure. We have an event coming up for teens and adult 4-H volunteers. It is a project training on Wednesday, November 12th. It starts at 6:30 Central Time, so 5:30 Mountain. It's out in Richardson at the Richardson-Taylor High School. This event was designed by Center for 4-H Youth Development staff, and it's created to help you identify and implement activities that create fun learning experiences for all 4-H members. And the event is $5, and again, it's November 12th, and it has a lot of different sessions that you can choose from. There's a session 1, which has fun 4-H club meetings. 4-H club meetings are the foundation of the 4-H program, and successful meetings can be both educational and fun. And this session will teach you how to create that successful meeting along with a fun meeting. There's also consumer choices, and that's to learn the basics of consumer choice judging from filling out judging cards and giving successful reasons, which we know can be very challenging. And it takes a lot of work to become very good at giving reasons. And then we have 4-H Livestock and Animal ID. And as part of the food security and animal health, 4-H project animals need to all be identified, and they'll discuss the requirements for animal identification at the state fair and suggestions for member project record books and care of animals. And that's in session 1. So all the participants in this training get to choose one session from the first group. And then session 2 is Fun with 4-H Science. And this is for adults who have kids who want to participate in science activities outside of the classroom. They're more likely to be comfortable with science. They're looking for some fun, hands-on science, engineering, and technology-related activities. This is a great session to take. I know this is the one that I signed up for, so I'm excited to go and see what they have to offer. We have the second session there is judging events and teams. There's a lot more judging teams in North Dakota than we hear about livestock judging a lot. But we have crop judging, dairy judging, horse judging, land judging, livestock judging, meats judging, and range judging. So quite a few different events and teams that you can participate on. And there'll be a session on all about those teams and how to get involved. And then the last session to choose from is Project Expo, where you can learn all about how to get started building a Project Expo display, what judges are looking for, and how to encourage 4-Hers to participate. And again, all of this training starts at 6:30 Central Time in Richardson at the Richardson-Taylor High School. Registration meal is from 6:30 to 7, and then they have a welcome and then some speed programming, which is very interesting. You get to learn a little bit about different programs in 4-H, and then the session breakouts, and then wrap up an evaluation. And if you have any questions, or if you're in the area and would like to carpool, I know that Burleigh County is taking a group of volunteers, as well as Morton County, out to Richardson that evening for this training. So it's good training, and definitely an opportunity to take advantage of that. They usually offer it in the fall. So, and deadline was October 29th, but I know that they're still signing up some participants. Some exciting news, and I know it's not necessarily 4-H or extension related, but we still work with this group, is last week the FFA, National FFA Convention was going on, and Mandan took home quite a few awards, as well as New Salem. And Mandan, they had second in communications?
Ag communications, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
In the nation, which is fantastic. I know Heidi worked a lot with that group, as well as Sarah.
Yes.
And
the team members were Tessa Keller and Sydney Schmidt, and then Emily Bendish. And so congratulations to those 3 girls. Great, awesome thing. And I did talk to find out. I talked to Tessa's dad, actually. He called to let me know how they were doing and how they did. And, of course, we were watching on Facebook, but Dwight doesn't do Facebook. So, and so I knew a little bit, probably more than he did. But I asked them what their subject was. And basically, they patterned it after the North Dakota Farm Rescue.
Oh, okay.
And so it was like a North Dakota cleanup farm event, and so that's how they went about their project for this year. And second place in the nation is really good. And Dwight said that it was very close between the first and the second place team.
Great.
So that's great.
Yeah. And also Mandan, I know Brandy Beam received her American degree.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
So a lot of good things out of Mandan. I know New Salem did pretty well as
Yeah,
well.
and they participated, I know, in the National Dairy Judging Contest. I don't know how they did, but I know that they were there, and that was great. And then Dwayne Schmidt, he's in our listening area as well. He received his honorary American Farmer degree as well, that I saw that on Facebook. And so that's great. Dwayne is a teacher in Beulah.
Okay.
He had been in Center for many, many, many years, and now he's teaching in Beulah at the Beulah FFA chapter. So congratulations to all the FFA members. I know that the livestock team, they were 10th in the nation from North Dakota, so they did well and represented the state really well too. And so
Good.
there was a national proficiency winner in grain from Carrington, which to win those national awards like that, that is really something. And so congratulations to all the North Dakota FFA members.
There was a young man too, and I don't remember, and now I'm going to get myself in a situation, but from rugby who received some kind of national award, and I can't remember
Okay,
what
I
that
don't
was.
know. I guess
I'll
I
have
didn't
to
catch
look that up.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but no, great opportunity for some showcasing of the North Dakota youth here. That's for sure.
Yep,
So,
and the FFA Foundation was really good about keeping us updated on Facebook,
Yeah.
so which was nice. And so if you haven't friended the North Dakota FFA Foundation, please do that, because you get lots of updates there as to how our youth are doing in the state. And of course, many of these FFA youth are also 4-H members, and so we've got to be proud of them all.
absolutely. And the second thing I have here to visit, or the third thing I have to visit about, is North Dakota 4-H ambassador selections are going to be held in Mandan at the Morton County Courthouse on November 21st. It's a great opportunity for youth to get involved at a state level as far as being a 4-H ambassador. 4-H ambassadors really promote 4-H within the state. They attend all kinds of different communication arts events, state fair, county banquets, livestock judging contests, all kinds of different things. And they get involved and they help out where they can. And they also just really promote 4-H and the positive impact that 4-H can give. If you're interested in becoming a 4-H ambassador, I encourage you to contact your local county extension office. It is for youth ages 16 to 22. The application and interview process is based on going through 4 different stations where you visit with different groups of people and really give a background on yourself, and then like a job interview basically.
Yep.
So it's a great opportunity for youth to learn those new skills and possibly become a North Dakota 4-H ambassador. And we have quite a few of them here in our county.
Yes, we do. And,
Yes.
I got called to be a judge, but
Did you?
there's a Bison football game, so I
Yes.
won't be here. So.
Last home game of the year.
Yes, it'll be the last home game, and it's Harvest Bowl that weekend,
Yep.
so I don't usually miss that. So.
Yep. So
And then another thing that I'd like to remind our listeners, and this is more on a state level, next week they are starting a livestock review process of our 4-H in North Dakota. And so we're excited to be having people from other states coming. I know there's a gal from Minnesota. Clint Russ is going to be here. Clint is currently the department head at Oklahoma State University. And I personally know Clint from way back when in his Hereford days. And Clint is going to be probably the chair of this committee. And they're going to look at our materials. They're going to look at our programming and some of those things and see how we can do some improving in the livestock area. And so there's a committee of agents involved as well, and hopefully everything will come out positive on that event.
let's hope.
Yes. And so it'll be an interesting 2-3 days that they're going to spend in North Dakota talking about the 4-H livestock program in North Dakota. So it's about time we're getting to go for a break. Jim is signaling us here, and we'll be back in a few minutes after we hear from our sponsors. Welcome back to the Extension Connection, and Vanessa Hoynes, Family and Consumer Science Agent, has just joined us in the studio. And so, like I said before, we are taping, and so we're going to turn it over to Ashley, and she's going to talk about some beef tips.
Yes, thank you, Jackie. I know that this may be a little late for this weaning season, but there is some new ideas about low-stress weaning. I have 4 tips for low-stress weaning. There's been some research done. The first one is to consider some fence line weaning. There's some specialists in South Dakota that have worked on this fence line weaning and have some advice. For fence line weaning to be effective, there are steps that need to be taken. First, place pairs in the pasture that the calves will be in the following weaning so they become familiar with the fences and water in the pasture. Upon weaning, place the cows in the pasture adjacent to the calves so they can see, hear, and smell each other, but the calves cannot nurse. This may require some modifications to fences to ensure the cows and calves remain separated. I know that can be a big problem, and I think back to our farm, and we always had that issue with getting those fences in and keeping the calves and cows separated. It may be valuable to place either a cull cow or a yearling in with those calves to help kind of calm them down and help them from walking the fences and trying to break through. After a few days, the cows and calves will move farther from the fences and not be as concerned about the weaning because they're finding other areas. Another tip is use plastic nose tags. Now these are very interesting. I have seen them before, and I remember using them growing up, and they, in my personal opinion, do not offer the greatest outreach for them. This tag, or more accurately known as a nose flap, prevents the calves from nursing, yet it allows them to graze, eat from a feeder, and drink. So the calf is able to stay with the cow, but isn't allowed to actually nurse because of that nose flap over their nose. It's based on the concept proven by research that the stress of weaning comes from breaking that social interaction between the cow-calf pairs, not from preventing the calf from nursing. The third tip for low-stress weaning is something that I think a lot of producers are potentially doing already, and that's introducing some creep feed before weaning. It might be beneficial to introduce creep feed in the final weeks before weaning. A calf that can come right up to the feed bunk after being separated from its mom will likely be less stressed than one never being introduced to that feed, and it can help them kind of have a jumping leap ahead of some of the other calves, and it may also help them resist some of those sicknesses and illnesses that come during weaning. Creep feeding calves for the last 3 to 4 weeks prior to weaning will help to minimize the stress that affects calves at weaning by getting the calves used to eating dry stored feeds. This minimizes the stress. The stress will reduce disease problems occurring at weaning, reduce treatment costs, and potentially enhance cattle performance post-weaning. And that's what we really want to see when weaning. You want to see those calves come off the cows and perform well. The last tip would be work calves before weaning time. We all know that weaning time can be very stressful for both calves and the cows. So if you are able to do a little work with the calves prior weaning, that can relieve some of that stress. Weaning is a stressful time for calves. Running a calf through a chute to dehorn, castrate, vaccinate, or deworm can be very stressful. So consider doing this 3 to 4 weeks before weaning time. That will help reduce some of that stress on those calves and hopefully allow those calves to be a little bit more resistant when it comes to some of the diseases that go along with weaning. Another tip that I had found, and I know my family and I, we used to utilize this practice, and that is cornstalk grazing during the winter will help with your feed savings. This is an alternative measure that you could seek. Grazing corn stalks is a good option that should be considered. A lot of folks don't realize that great and underutilized cattle feed resource corn stalks are. You think about all those stalks that are left in the field and some of those kernels that don't get cleaned up. They're a great vacuum, like, if you want, to go out there and clean up some of those fields. It's not a high quality of feed, but a mature, non-lactating cow will gain body condition under an appropriate stocking rate. There's been a lot of research done, and this is actually from the University of Nebraska and the Sandhills Laboratory Research Facility. They compared the performance of cows wintered solely on corn stalks with cows wintered on native winter range, and they actually found that the cows that were on the corn stalks did better, and the animals that were just on the winter range actually had to be supplemented with protein at a rate of 32%. So you think of your input costs, and if you're having to put out extra supplement during the winter, that's another cost. At a stocking rate 45 grazing days per acre, the cows on corn stalks gain the same amount of body condition without supplement as did the supplemented cattle grazing on native range. But the way you manage grazing on stalks by your cattle can have a big effect on your success. You must make sure you have enough acres so your stocking level can be light enough to allow cattle to select just the higher quality plant parts to eat. When the grain husks and leaves are gone, move to a fresh field. Something interesting that they noted was how the cows actually eat in the corn stalks. They'll actually move down that stalk of corn, and they'll start by eating some of that husk up on the top, and then they'll actually move down into the leaves, and then they're looking at some of those kernels that are laying on the ground around. Whatever your strategy is, consider carefully the level of nutrition the animal is getting from the stock pasture, so you neither underfeed nor overfeed, and so you don't have to have those extra inputs going into the winter. The husks are more digestible, and that's why they're eaten first, and they're more nutrient dense than the leaves, but make up only 12% of the residue left in the field. Meanwhile, the leaves are capable of allowing a mature, non-lactating cow to maintain her body weight because the stalks and cobs are poor quality. Cows forced to eat them will lose body condition. So just in review, another method for trying to cut some of your input costs for winter grazing would be to try to use those corn stalks that are left out in the field and just utilize those for an extra feed stuff and allow those cows to be your vacuum cleaner and pick up some of those left corn cobs and stalks out in the field. And with that, Jim has given us the signal that we're going to have to take a break, and we'll be back right after the message.
Welcome back to the Extension Connection. As I said, Vanessa joined us a little late in the studio today. She had a conference call, and so Vanessa, you're going to talk about brain health. I know for sure.
Yeah.
And what else?
Well, I wanted to update folks. Actually on Monday we had our first session on the putting your thinking cap on, looking at brain health, aging, and you. And this is a 4-week session that's happening once a week every Monday. And our first one this past Monday was understanding memory loss, and we had a full house. So it was greatly appreciated, a presentation put on by the Alzheimer's Association. This coming Monday, on November 10th at 1 o'clock will be a session on caregiving and the challenges of caregiving for someone who may have dementia, or just caregiving in general as we age. If there is a loved one or a family member that you're needing to care for, and you want to learn a little bit more about what it means to be a caregiver and also some of the support systems that are out there, we would love to have you come. And if you want more information about how to sign up, you can sure call me at our office at 667-3340. So next week, November 10th, is the Caregiving Challenge. The following week is an opportunity on November 17th, that Monday. It's an opportunity to discuss with some of the doctors that work with folks who have brain injury or brain issues, and so they can help us understand some of those medications that folks might be on, looking at some of the symptoms just to double check and make sure that we're all going on the right path. And sometimes I think that is frightening whenever we start talking about dementia or brain health. We all begin to think about those times when we're going to introduce somebody who's been a good friend of ours and we can't think of their name. Has that ever happened to anybody in the room? Everybody's shaking their head. Yes, or we run into somebody in the grocery store and that isn't normally where we interact with them and we can't remember who they are. Or we misplace our purse or our cell phone or our glasses or all those things. And that is something that is a natural occurrence in aging. And sometimes just in having so many things on our mind, that happens. When it becomes something that we are concerned about is when you misplace something, but then you lose the ability to be able to process and retrace your steps and go back to find where you may have set that item down or where you may have put it. That becomes one of the times when maybe that's a point when we need to see a doctor. But I know that the doctors will also be reminding us that many times dementia and those types of symptoms aren't necessarily connected to Alzheimer's per se. They may be connected to different types of other medications that we may be on, or even actually having an infection in our bodies can actually cause us to not be able to think straight. And so I think that can be a relief to us sometimes. And then the fourth session will be on Monday, November 24th, and we'll be talking about nourishing your brain. I'm going to be presenting that presentation, and there will be a lunch included with that one. So if you're interested in those sessions, please give us a call. I know we're getting really close to being full, so if you think you might want to come, please call soon, and we will get you connected. You can just call our office at 667-3340. Another thing that is happening in November, as we just clicked over from October to November, not only did we celebrate Halloween, but November is also National Diabetes Month. And isn't it interesting that National Diabetes Month actually starts one day after the gateway holiday of Halloween, with all those overflowing candy bars and candy jars and baskets of candy sitting all over people's offices and homes and all those things that never got into the trick-or-treat bag of friends and neighbors, but now we're stuck with it sitting in our homes or our offices. So Diabetes Prevention Month really is an opportunity to think about that and not only think about Halloween, but we also have several holidays in front of us that all are connected with food, of course. Diabetes affects nearly 29 million Americans, and it's estimated that 79 million people are at risk for developing this disease. In North Dakota, diabetes affects about 45,000 people. And so it's really important to keep that in mind and to be mindful as you make your visits to the doctor, to if you have diabetes in your family, if you have any of the risk factors, to make sure that you are checking your blood sugars and having your doctor make that test, just so that you are able to catch that as soon as you can. The NDSU Extension Service really works to help North Dakotans better understand how to make the necessary changes to prevent, hopefully, type 2 diabetes. And then if you are diagnosed, to help you manage and prevent some of those complications that can come with diabetes as we continue to live our healthy lives. Small changes over time can really make a big impact when it comes to diabetes. And we currently are doing a Dining with Diabetes class right now. And if you have some interest in that, you can sure give me a call also. We really urge people in that class and in other classes that I offer to have everybody be mindful of what they eat and to think before eating that piece of candy that is left over from Halloween. I know that's hard because they're all sitting there, and sometimes you even think to yourself, well, if I eat 3 pieces today, there'll be 3 less pieces in that jar, and then it won't be there as long. But we all know that really doesn't work. Anybody in this room have any candy sitting at home that's left over? Oh, yeah. Oh, Carla says she doesn't have any. She ate it already. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I didn't even have candy. I haven't even been mentioned on the bowl at work, so I don't even get it. Good deal. I think it's important for people to even think about those small candy bars. Even those little fun-sized candy bars range in calories from 40 to 90 calories. And just as a reminder, to burn off 40 calories, you'd have to walk 10 flights of stairs. So think about that before you grab that little Snicker or that little Milky Way or whatever it might be.
Yesterday, I have a bag of Laffy Taffy and Nerd bag or whatever from Halloween left over. And I thought, just one won't hurt. And I looked, and it's 140 calories to one small Laffy Taffy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That just made me like, I ate 2 of those already. I should have looked at the calories beforehand.
And I think the other thing that's deceiving is that most times if you're looking at the candy that the kids have collected during trick-or-treating, they don't have the nutrition information. Not that there's really nutrition, but they don't have the calorie information any longer available.
The dreaded numbers, you mean?
Yes, it's not available because whoever gave that to them has the outside bag, which is the part that has that information. And so we don't have that information, and just like you said, sometimes seeing it in black and white can make you think twice. If you needed to burn off just 90 calories, you'd have to jog about 10 minutes in order to burn that off. And so keeping that in mind can sometimes curb how many pieces we might want to grab from that bowl or sneak from that child's bag. The holiday season, I think, as we look forward to Thanksgiving and the winter holidays, Christmas holidays, is really a time to enjoy family and friends. And we have to admit, it's also a time to enjoy food. And so keeping some tips in mind as we look to those holidays can also be a good way to be more mindful about our eating. Sometimes skipping those appetizers can save you some calories before you actually get to the dinner. Unless, of course, those appetizers are like fresh vegetables or those kinds of things. Also focusing on the food items that are really special to you. So if there's something that you only get at Thanksgiving or Christmas, focus on those things and forget about the bun that is from the store that you can have every week. Or think about choosing that lefse. That might be something new. Forgo those post-dinner snacks and just focus on family instead of food. Keeping some mints or sugar-free gum available to you at your desk or those places. Making sure that we're drinking a lot of water and other low-calorie beverages or no-calorie beverages can be helpful. And then probably most importantly, enjoy the people, eat slowly, and really enjoy each bite. Make sure that grandma's pie, you recognize each bite that you take so that you can remember it for the whole year. And I think that's going to bring us to a close for Extension Connection today. If you have any questions for the NDSU staff, please contact us at 667-3340. And if not, we will talk to you in a couple weeks.